All right. Well, look, we've got a whole bunch of people joining us. That is absolutely fantastic. I just want to say just so welcome to all of the students who have joined us for today's science student panel. My name is Caitlin. I am a very old student from the University of Sydney, and I'm here representing the Faculty of Science. With me, I have three amazing science students who were in your position doing the HSC just last year. So they are very, very aware of how you're feeling at the moment. We have the fantastic April, we have the amazing Ella, and we have the super fantastic Kawana, and they will all be sharing their experiences with you. And this session is going to be a big Q&A session. So what I want you to do is anytime you have any questions for any of these lovely panelists today, I want you to go to the Q&A option. There's like a button that says Q&A, and you can just type your question and we'll answer it for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off. I'm going to ask our fantastic panelists to just introduce themselves, tell you what they're studying at the university, and hopefully you'll get to know them, and they'll answer all your HSC need questions. Let's start off with April.
My name's April, and I am in my first year of Bachelor of Veterinary Biology / Doctor of Veterinary Medicine. I finished my HSC last year. I did PE, Food Tech, Biology, Standard English, and Advanced Maths.
Thanks, April. On to Ella.
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Ella, and I'm in my first year of a Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Advanced Studies, majoring in Medical Science and Biochemistry and Molecular Biology. In the HSC, I studied English Advanced and Extension 1, Maths Extension 1, and Biology, Chemistry and Physics. My top advice for studying science for the HSC would be to create an achievable study schedule and use the learning outcomes of the syllabus to structure and guide your study. And I also suggest thinking about how the modules relate to the working scientifically outcomes and considering if you could use anything that you learnt in year 11 to strengthen your responses for the HSC. Like for example, homeostasis, which was studied in year 12, relates to like cells and adaptations, which you would have learnt about in year 11. When enrolling in uni, I chose my course based on what I was interested in, like I did for the HSC when choosing my subjects. And I really enjoyed the human side of biology, so I decided to choose medical science.
Fantastic. April, did you want to just add like one tip that you had about your studying?
Oh yes, one of the main things I think for any science degree in general would be making sure that you can definitely address the level of understanding that the syllabus states and knowing when to stop. And because a lot of people go way too much in depth for something that you only need a really basic understanding of, and it just wastes precious time that you could be using in other areas of your study.
Fantastic. Thank you, April and Ella. Kawana, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Kawana. I'm currently studying, same as Ella, Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Advanced Studies. I'm in the DL stream, but I'm majoring in genetics and genomics and chemistry. In the HSC, I did Advanced English, I did Advanced Mathematics, Music, Chemistry, Biology. I did Physics through distance education, and I also did Extension 1 Maths for most of Year 12. And I think one of my biggest tips would be to try and always relate what you're learning in class to things that you're interested in. You remember stuff better if you're interested in it. So hopefully you picked subjects that you were interested in to begin with, but then try and like see ways that you can make it fun for yourself and do as many extracurricular activities as you can, because that would only help in enrollment. It'll give you like a good CV, and you know, unis like to see that you're passionate about whatever you are studying. And yeah, that would be my advice.
Fantastic, thank you. We've actually already got a question lined up. Thank you, Greg, for sending in this question. Greg's question is, what is the biggest difference between how you learn science in high school and how you are taught in university. Why don't we all have a go at this? So April, do you want to start?
I think the biggest difference from me from going from science to in HSC to science in uni would be the level of independence. I think it's important to have some level of independence in the HSC, but your teachers are always there. You can always go ask them questions and talk to them about something you're struggling with. Whereas university is a much more independent based study, and the lecturers will encourage you to answer your own questions and encourage you to go off and learn more about the topic in order to answer the question that you have, rather than them just telling you the answer.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with what April said, that, you know, the learning, as with pretty much any subject, I think at uni is much more self-directed. So you really you're much more, I think, responsible for your own learning, and you really sort of have to make sure that you're staying on track and doing all the assignments and the assessments and watching all the lectures and everything. Also, I think probably practicals kind of went to another level for me, in the sense that during Corona it was a bit hard because we were all at home, but normally the practicals would last like 3 or 4 hours, and you'd be in like, you know, a full lab with, you know, all of the equipment and lab coats and lots of other students. So that's a bit different, I think.
Yeah, I agree completely with what April and Ella said. I mean, I did physics to distance education, so I was already used to having to be like self-motivated and having to do my own learning, but there really isn't, like, your lecturer doesn't really tell you that you should start the assignment. Like, you know, there's nobody there saying, your assignment's due in 4 days, maybe you should have started it. Like, there's none of that. You just have to get in and get it done. And I think that would be like the biggest difference.
Fantastic. Kawana, while you are talking, we've got a question about the DL program from Vince. How different is a science program with DL from regular science programs without DL?
It's not that different. So you still have to do a lot of the similar core units that you would do in a normal science degree, but you have to do like extra DL ones, which can be really interesting. Like this semester I did a group project where we had to research lipid asymmetry, which was just one of the topics we were given, and then like showcase that. It was a lot of fun, but I don't think it's like too much different. A lot of your units you can choose to have like advanced versions of, or you can do DL versions. So, and I think Ella can add on to that.
Yeah, I'm also in the DL stream, and I think, as Kawana said, it's not like really that different, but it does give you like extra opportunities and just sort of enrichment. So you can do the extra like research project that Kawana was talking about. So yeah, it's just extra opportunities and like networking opportunities as well. So you get to meet lots of other students that way. So it's just enrichment, basically. I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. We've got a question from Jonathan. Jonathan asks, for those of you who didn't study chemistry in high school, what was it like doing uni-level chemistry courses without the prior knowledge? Have any of you? Yes.
I didn't. Yeah, so I did chemistry in year 11, and I then dropped chemistry for year 12. That was the subject I took off. And I had to start with second level chemistry because the degree I'm doing, there wasn't an opportunity for fundamentals, which I think is sort of like the more, if you didn't do HSC chemistry. So I sort of jumped right into the deep end. But having a tiny bit of knowledge from year 11 really helped. But also, like, there really is a lot of resources, and like people are really helpful. I've got a group chat where I can ask questions. I just had to put in a lot more effort than people who did do the HSC chemistry course, but I've found it totally tolerable so far. It's just that extra bit of effort that I have to put in for that subject is the only thing I think is the difference.
Did you have to do a bridging course or anything like that, April?
No, I didn't. They just said that it is assumed knowledge. So if I don't have it, then it's sort of like bad luck for you. But I figured, because I did have that tiny bit of knowledge from year 11, that I would be able to build on it. And all I've had to do is just put in a couple more hours a week than probably the other students. But it wasn't a prerequisite, so I was still able to do it.
Right. Oh, thank you. I was going to ask, here we have a question about past papers. When is a good time to start doing past papers, and when should I save it for later?
That's a really
I
good
would
question,
say
actually.
don't
go,
save
you go.
them.
Oh, sorry.
I would
Go to April.
Who wants to go? Me?
Yeah, April,
okay.
you go.
I would say don't save them. I did past papers like throughout, from the start of the HSC right up until the end. I redid the same questions. For PE, I did it mostly, and for bio as well. You can really find a lot of resources with questions, even if they're not past papers. I know like lots of textbooks have HSC style questions. I would strongly recommend you start doing them as soon as you can, just because it does take a lot of time to sort of understand what the verbs mean and what you should be putting in your answer and how long you should be spending on them. It really is a skill that takes a lot of time to acquire, and I think that the earlier you start, the better off you're going to be in the exam, because you're going to know, okay, this is worth 7 marks. I should be writing roughly this much, and it should take me roughly this amount of time. I know what content I should include and what I shouldn't include, and it just really helps you develop your answers and make them a lot better the longer you practice them for.
Yeah, I agree with April there. Because one of the hardest things that you can only really get better at by doing the question. So I'm at a point now where I look at a question and I see that it's worth 4 marks, and I can tell you without looking at the marking criteria what I have to say. Like I know where all 4 of those marks are coming from. And so that makes it really simple to answer questions, because you don't have to guess, well, does the marker want this? You can kind of figure it out, but that's only something you can do by answering lots of questions. And I was lucky enough for my math course that I finished the coursework a term early. And so for that final term, I did a past paper like every week, or like 2 a week during my actual school time, which was really helpful as well.
Fantastic. All right, we have a question from Shelby. Shelby's question is, how much animal experience do you get to into the biology and doctorate of vet course?
So for the first 2 years, it's the Bachelor of Veterinary Biology, which is more a science-focused degree than a vet-focused degree so far, I've found. The core subjects are really similar just to like a normal Bachelor of Science, or a few other subjects that are sort of relevant to animals as well. I do one elective, which is Animals and Us, and for that subject I get to go to Taronga Zoo once a week for a prac, and I learn about animal psychology and human psychology and all interactions between humans and animals. I really love that subject. But I think most of the hands-on animal stuff comes from the Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, which is the 3rd year of the degree till the end. So it's a 6-year degree, and the first 2 years are to establish an undergraduate degree before you start the postgraduate Doctor of Veterinary Medicine.
Fantastic. Ella, did you want to describe your degree a bit more? Because I know a lot of students are interested in sort of medical. Did you want to say what it's like just in your first year?
Yeah, sure. So I decided to do medical science because I've always known that I was like interested in the human body and maybe studying medicine later. I would like say though that I didn't choose it sort of just to get into medicine, because I didn't want to, do a degree and then get to the end of it and find out that I either didn't want to actually do medicine or that I couldn't actually get in. So I still think it's really important to follow what you're actually interested in. And so far I've really enjoyed medical science in the sense that it's given me like a real taste of like all of the different areas. So for example, for practicals, like we had practicals from pathology, anatomy, histology, all of these different areas. And that's been really good for me because I really just want to get experience at the moment and try all of these different areas and see what I really like and what I'm really interested in. So that's why I chose medical science. So I think for anybody who wants like a cross section of kind of the whole field, because medical science is quite broad, the medical science degree is a pretty good way to go. And you can then, just by getting that experience, discover what you really like and what you're interested in and what you should pursue further.
Thank you. I'm going to throw to Kawana now. You mentioned that you did every single extracurricular activity that you could possibly get your hands on in high school. If your high school wasn't offering any science extracurricular activities, could you go somewhere else to find them?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm in a little remote community like 6 hours from Sydney, and so we didn't have anything like and our high school science program didn't have a lot of equipment. So there's so many university programs that you can apply to. The university like often runs winter camps and summer camps. I've been to Newcastle, USyd, UNSW for all of these. I've been to UNE as well, and a lot of those are free. They'll pay for your flights and accommodation, food, everything. They just want you there for the experience. And then the other route is there was a program that I couldn't go to for free, but I had to travel to Sydney for, and my own council actually sponsored me to go for that. So I approached my local council and they paid for it. So there's lots of different options, and I would say apply for everything. Just try and do as much as you can, because by the time I actually got to my first year of uni, I am miles ahead of everybody else in practical skills, because I've used a lot of the more complex equipment like micropipettes, all those things, and I have a lot more practical skills in that area.
Yeah, fantastic. Speaking of living outside of Sydney, what did you think when you came here?
Yeah, I really like it. So I live in university accommodation. I live in Regiment. Yeah. I really like the building that I'm living in. I think if you can afford it, university accommodation is a really good option. I'm Indigenous, so I was lucky that I got a scholarship to live on campus. So my rent is really heavily reduced. It's only $50 a week at the moment, which was life-changing. I wouldn't have been able to live on campus otherwise. But yeah, I think it's definitely possible to move far away if you have the means to do it, and I would definitely suggest it.
And April as well, I think you've come from outside of Sydney to study here. How did you?
Yeah, so I came from Maitland, which is sort of like around Newcastle area. I never actually planned on moving to Sydney until about December, the year before uni, like the end of the year, when I was originally planning on doing the medical degree at University of Newcastle, but I missed the application date for that. So then I just started like looking at different degrees and stuff I was interested in, and USyd is the only uni that offers vet that was close to me, that was sort of like semi accessible from my place. And basically I decided I was going to go to USyd, and I got back from a holiday in February and moved to Sydney in a matter of weeks, which was a bit of a rush, but I definitely overestimated how hard it would be. I thought it was going to be so much work and it was going to be really hard to settle and fit in, but I found it like really easy, and it wasn't like as stressful as I thought. The uni is really welcoming. They have so many like open days you can go to and get familiar with the area before you move there. So I went to a couple of those, which was also really useful. I wasn't just getting thrown into a university that I'd never been to before. So I found that really helped me in my transition to moving to Sydney as well.
Thanks, April. We have a question from Joseph. It asks, do you have to choose specific subjects to study within each scientific field? And if so, when do you have to pick the certain subject? Ella, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. So in first year, there isn't really usually that much choice because a lot of the subjects that you study are compulsory, and they're also quite like foundational, just to get everybody on the same level and make sure that everybody has like the basics in chemistry and maths and all of that. But as you like go into like second year and third year, you get a bit more elective space, so you can choose the things that you're interested in, which is handy because by then you kind of probably have a bit more of an idea of what to choose. In terms of when you choose, that's kind of all part of the enrollment process. So I did that in like January, February of this year. So just basically before the start of semester one.
Thank you. Did April or Kawana have anything to add about subject choices? What about like HSC subject choices?
Yeah, so for the HSC, I decided to just do every subject. Like I did biochem and physics just because I wanted the option of anything if I wanted to enroll. But from like the majority of people I've spoken to and what I've researched in different degrees, the main prerequisite is biology for a lot of the like life sciences, chemistry for certain ones, and physics only really for things like engineering or like specific physics courses. I'm pretty sure like astrophysics. I don't think there's not as much for prerequisite physics, but mainly chemistry or biology if you want to study in life sciences.
And also sometimes sorry.
No, you're right. I was just going to say that I also found for a lot of sciences, advanced maths was also a prerequisite.
Yes,
even though it's not a science subject, you do have to do mathematics as a core unit when you do a science degree at university, and that does assume advanced mathematics. So that is one thing that you don't really think of when you're doing science, that you might need to do higher level maths.
I was just going to say that sometimes with prerequisite subjects, it'll be like you need chemistry and then either biology or physics.
Yes.
So, it could be like just two of the sciences, but you have to have the sort of right combination. So make sure you go and check it out.
I have a question about what advice do you have to keep up your energy to study? So when I get home from school, I'm so tired, but I know I have to put in a couple of hours of study. How do you keep your energy up? Kawana, did you want to take this one first?
Yeah, so I planned my days really well. So during the HSC, I would do about 12 hours total throughout the day. It's like from the time like I got to school and then I like going forward. And so I had to have the strictest schedule for study because I did so many extracurriculars. Like I was in an orchestra, like I did so much. I tutored a kid, I did so much stuff that my day was pretty much planned to the minute. And every time I was like super tired and I didn't want to do anything, I thought about my future self and I was like, I'm going to be sad later because I haven't done it now. And I just started it. I was like, 5 minutes of work will be better paid off now than it will when I have to do an extra like hour tomorrow or next week. So that's like my advice. Just like start. 5 minutes is better than nothing.
So true. Did you have anything to add, Ella?
I think just definitely what Kawana said, but also like just make sure that you look after yourself in general. So go to bed at a good time, and eat well and exercise and like have a balance, because I think that really does help to have that routine. And then I think some days will be more tiring than others, but as you sort of get into the routine and get used to it, particularly if you have a study space. So like I would go straight from school like straight to the library, because I found that if I came home, I was like, cool, we can relax now. But actually, there was no time to relax. So basically, I think if by going straight to the library, my head was sort of still in like a study mode. And so then I'd do my homework there and then I'd come home and then I could chill out.
Yeah. Fantastic. I think we might have time for one or two more questions. I might direct this one at April. We have a student. I am worried about my marks for getting into science at the University of Sydney, what marks should I aim for, and what do you recommend to help with studying for science? I'm going to direct it to you, April, because I know you didn't get into your first choice.
Yeah, well, I think with my marks, what I aimed for was just the best that I could achieve. I didn't really worry too much about the individual, like, little tests or things, the marks I would get back. I would just focus on what I could improve and what I could do better in. And I think that if you get caught up being like, I need to get 70% in this and I have to get 60, it gets really like distorted and you lose sight of the end goal. And I think just trying your best as much as you can throughout the year, you're going to get the mark that you deserve and the mark that you have worked for. So getting caught up in like the tiny little things can just often stress you out, and then you're like, maybe lose motivation if you don't achieve that mark, and you'll feel bad, and then you'll be like, oh, is there even any point? For me, with motivation, I did struggle a lot. I didn't pull many hours at the start of the year, and I found it really hard to actually get started with my studying. I found that I really would take a step back and look at the bigger picture and think like, well, I want to be a vet. So I'm just going to think about I want to become a vet. So if I'm worried about this test, like, I'm forgetting about the big picture. And the big picture, if you take a step back out of your life that you're living now and think, in 10 years time, I could be working as a vet and doing what I want to do, it makes it easier to get started on the work that is in front of you at that point in time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and just quickly adding on to what April said, if you're worried about marks, I would strongly look at early entry, because like for my degree, I got into 2 different early entry pathways, and one of them reduced the ATAR that I needed by 15 points, which is a lot. Like, you know, the difference between like a 95 and an 80 is like crazy. So if you're really worried about that, I would say apply for everything and apply for like so many degrees, because it's better to get into all 10 of your options than not get into the like only one that you applied for, and strongly look at early entry.
Fantastic. Look, we're almost at time. What I might do is I'll just put this, if you have further questions after this and you want to send us your questions individually, feel free to contact us by these email addresses online. We also have one more of these sessions next week on the 22nd. So I'll just put that up there so you can see it next week at 4 o'clock. I'll just put that contact page back on, and we're going to answer one more question for those people still here. Joseph asked one more question. How important are extracurricular activities in terms of application for scholarships and the DL stream? And should those activities be relevant to your degree, or can they be anything?
I think it's very important. This is just from my personal experience. I have applied for a lot of scholarships in my time, and I feel like it does reflect better on you if it shows that you're participating in anything, because it shows that you have some sort of drive. So my CV has gotten to be very good because I have a list pages long of stuff that I've participated in, and it doesn't have to necessarily be like area specific. If it's science specific, great, that looks even better if you're playing for science. But simple things like volunteering, or, you know, like tutoring someone, like it's just random stuff. It doesn't have to necessarily be like I did a chemistry thing. It just looks good on you as a person, and it shows that you have a lot of passion and dedication and that you're hardworking.
Yeah, definitely. I think it does show that you've got a wide range of skills, and also that you've got the ability to like organize your life, which is really, really important. And to balance, like having lots of things to do, which you'll definitely have to do at uni. So that's really good. And it helps with routine, I found as well. Having, you know, netball training to go to and like all that kind of stuff, you know, really makes you use the time that you've got to study well. And I think, yeah, just they don't have to be science specific, because everybody has a wide range of interests. So it's good that, you know, if it reflects things about you that are different to your love of science.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We have hit time. Thank you, panelists, for being so fabulous and sharing your experiences with us today. I just wanted to make a small announcement about the faculty is running some very special syllabus HSC run workshops on the 15th of July. They're called Virtual Kickstart because they kickstart your learning for biology, chemistry, maths, particularly extension maths, and physics. So if you would be interested in joining us for those online holiday programs, you can send us an email at schools.outreach@sydney.edu.au. Otherwise, feel free to send us any of your further questions. And thank you so much for joining us today. Perhaps we'll see some of you next Monday at this session on the 22nd. Otherwise, have a fantastic year and good luck with the HSC. Bye.